I kept feeling anxious for no reason, even when nothing was wrong. I had a safe home and a stable routine. Yet a persistent, low-level dread followed me everywhere. I wanted to know why. So I went down the rabbit hole to find out why millions of people feel chronically anxious despite living in the safest era in human history. What I discovered was startling. Modern anxiety is not a personal failure. It is not a character defect. It is a designed consequence of the environment you live in. Globally, anxiety rates began an unprecedented spike right around 2010, a period when life was objectively safer than ever before in human history. To understand this epidemic, I analyzed data across 3 different disciplines. The research of social psychologist Jonathan Haidt, neuroscientist Dr. Joseph Ledoux, and investigative journalist Johan Hari helped explain what I found. Their work reveals something uncomfortable. Your anxiety is not just in your head. It is the predictable response to a world that has systematically exploited your biology. Modern anxiety is not a personal failure. It is not a character defect. It is a designed consequence of the environment you live in. Globally, anxiety rates began an unprecedented spike right around 2010, a period when life was objectively safer than ever before in human history. Here is the pivot point. After 2010, 3 forces began shaping everyday anxiety. Phones rewired attention, platforms monetized outrage, and work followed us home. I'll break down each mechanism next, starting with the Great Rewiring and why it elevated baseline arousal. My first breakthrough came from the timeline. Between 2010 and 2015, anxiety rates skyrocketed, coinciding with mass smartphone adoption. Social psychologist Jonathan Haidt calls this the Great Rewiring. Social media platforms are engineered for chronic comparison, replacing real-world interactions with hyper-curated digital feeds. Constant notifications fragment attention, keeping your brain in a perpetual state of interruption and lowering your threshold for peace. My second discovery is that modern life is systematically hijacking our ancient survival biology. Our survival circuits evolved to detect immediate physical threats, but today, our brains can't tell the difference between a tiger and a work email. News alerts, social media notifications, and the 24-hour information stream all act as an endless sequence of false alarms. Because these digital triggers never disappear, our survival circuits remain chronically active, generating a constant baseline of dread. The internal hijacking is only part of the story. My third discovery centered on what is happening around us. Human beings are cooperative creatures. We evolved to live in tight-knit, interdependent communities where we knew everyone around us and they knew us. Over recent decades, those communities have quietly collapsed, stripping away the single most powerful buffer against stress that humans have ever known. Investigative journalist Johan Hari documented this in Lost Connections, mapping out the social and environmental drivers of anxiety that the medical model ignores. Hari's findings show that the loss of meaningful community, combined with increasingly isolated lifestyles, correlates directly with rising anxiety rates. We have disconnected from nature, from stable social webs, and from intrinsic values. Hari also points to solutions that are social, not merely medical. Rebuilding shared purpose, face-to-face groups, and projects that tie people together. Clubs, volunteering, and local rituals buffer stress, while status comparison and isolated routines erode it. Participation predicts calmer minds. The data indicates these social fractures predict chronic anxiety far more accurately than brain chemistry does. When you isolate yourself in a room staring at a screen, you send a primal signal to your biology that you are alone in the wild. To an evolutionary brain, isolation equals danger, so it turns up the dial on anxiety. The data indicates these social fractures predict chronic anxiety far more accurately than brain chemistry does. When you isolate yourself in a room staring at a screen, you send a primal signal to your biology that you are alone in the wild. To an evolutionary brain, isolation equals danger, so it turns up the dial on anxiety. When you connect these 3 findings, the complete picture emerges. Chronic anxiety is rarely a personal weakness. It is rarely a simple chemical imbalance. It is the predictable result of three immense forces working together. A digital environment that rewires your brain through constant comparison. A primitive fear system chronically activated by an unending stream of modern stimuli. And a fragmented society that has stripped away the human connections that historically protected mental health. This is not a conspiracy theory. It is documented reality, validated across separate fields by a leading social psychologist, a top neuroscientist, and an investigative journalist. Your mind is not broken. It is reacting exactly as it was trained to react, by an environment designed to exploit it. Together, these forces create a feedback loop: constant comparison, chronic false alarms, and shrinking community. Name the loop and you can interrupt it with boundaries, nervous system resets, and deliberate connection, turning down that background dread. To reclaim your peace, you have to deliberately push back against these forces. Based on the research, here are 3 concrete actions you can implement this week. First, create digital boundaries. Establish phone-free zones, especially during the first and last hours of the day. This stops the continuous rewiring and gives your attention span a chance to rest. Second, soothe your hijacked amygdala using a physiological sigh. 2 quick inhales through the nose, followed by a long, slow exhale through the mouth. This instantly signals to your nervous system that no immediate danger is present. Third, actively combat the connection collapse. Schedule at least one recurring, face-to-face interaction within a real community group each week. This directly satisfies your evolutionary need for tribal belonging, lowering the survival circuit's alarm. To reclaim your peace, you have to deliberately push back against these forces. Based on the research, here are 3 concrete actions you can implement this week. Going down this rabbit hole completely transformed how I view my own internal struggles. Understanding the systemic causes removes the burden of self-blame. Professional medical guidance and therapy remain vital cornerstones for many people navigating severe distress. None of this replaces them, but recognizing these environmental factors offers an empowering, additional layer of insight. If you want to examine the primary data yourself, I highly recommend exploring the foundational research of Jonathan Haidt, Dr. Joseph Ledoux, and Johann Hari. Once you understand the design of the modern world, you can finally begin to change the environment that creates your anxiety. Going down this rabbit hole completely transformed how I view my own internal struggles. Understanding the systemic causes removes the burden of self-blame.